Welcome in, fine citizens. It is great to be with you. I'm Dan Leach, and welcome to Ring the Bell Investing with the masters of Marketocracy. And let's bring in the masters, and we'll start with King Tony Mitchell, the CEO, CIO, TKO, KO, and what other three, FBI, CIA of Marketocracy Masters. You really do it all, Tony.
Thank you, Dan. I'm just a humble investor trying to help people out here.
Hey, listen, we love doing this show. We had some good feedback. People want some more stock tips. We're going to give them to them. We got some great ones tonight. We got some great things to cover. Unfortunately, we had our good man, Glenn, who's going to join us any second. But I think Glenn literally just went down a rabbit hole, so he's no longer in the back studio. We'll get Glenn here in a second. But let's start off here, Tony, with this because – you know, as the markets are crossing into Q3 for 26, I know investors are navigating a fundamentally reshaped macroeconomic landscape. And it's a combination of historic corporate structural shifts, which we see happening all the time, rising global tensions, which we see happening almost every minute right now, and a leadership change of the central bank, which has left Wall Street wrestling with four central questions that we feel are going on today. And Tony, we'll start with this. The Kevin Warsh Fed, are interest rate hikes back on the table, and just your general thoughts of what we've seen. And what has it been now, a month and a half of Warsh? Something like that?
I don't even know if it's been that long yet, but
it feels like it's been longer than it probably has.
Sure, yeah, waiting for his nomination and everything, or his confirmation, I should say. He was nominated a while ago, but Dan, you hit it there. Excuse me. There is so much going on right now, so much to navigate. The one positive thing I'll say about that is through all this, the markets are holding pretty good. I think that's a great sign. Boy, if we didn't have all these things to navigate right now, the markets could be skyrocketing. So I think it's a positive thing overall. And regarding the Fed and Kevin Warsh, I'm still going to hold my line that I don't think we're going to see a rate hike this year. I know as the minutes came out this week, the dot plot went crazy, and all of a sudden you had Fed governors that went from no increases to 3 increases this year on their dot plots, and apparently there's just a lot of rebellion going on, and what Warsh called family fighting during the meeting, which he was encouraging. So we're going to see a lot of reforms at the Fed. Things are going to be different in the future, but I still believe that we're not going to see an increase. And I don't know we'll see a cut this year, but I don't think we're going to see an increase.
No, I think that's probably news to a lot of people's ears. And by the way, he is back from his quick trip to Neptune. It is the great Glenn Braunworth, the Marketocracy Master CTO. You're the chief technology officer, and you disappeared on me.
I am. Well, power problems when there's a power storm and a thunderstorm.
Oh, you see, now I do want to mention this, and Glenn, I'm going to ask the same question I let off with Tony to you in just a moment here. We know there are people watching us obviously around the country, but especially in Michigan, high-powered storms a little out to the west. My stepmom, this is a sad story. She needs a stock tip. Maybe it'll make her feel better. She was on her way with her good friend to New Jersey, and their flight was, I believe, at 3. So they got to the airport early. They boarded the plane. They said 2 hours they were sitting on the plane. They had them get off the plane, said that they were going to have them come back at 7:15. They came back at 7:15, and they canceled the flight. So she is coming home, no New York, New Jersey. There's crazy storms out west, and it's not – or out east, excuse me, out west. There's heat out west. But I feel so bad because I've been very – knock on wood – hopefully you guys as well. I travel a lot, not as much the last maybe 5 months, but for the last decade, I travel a lot, and I've rarely had any kind of delays. So I got to be very grateful. Today, if you're traveling out east, you are screwed.
Well, and that's where our good friend Glenn Braunworth resides. He's in New Jersey, so
it's your fault. It's Glenn. It's your fault. I'm going to tell Leslie.
Yes, I was doing a rain dance the other day, and it happened to come true. I needed to water my lawn. So,
how bad is it? And by the way, I know it's bad in New York, New Jersey, Philly, and that area. Why in Boston? That's where they just played that France World Cup game. Mbappe scored again, and they're all the way to the semis. It was 89 real feel and 98 and sunny. So how is Boston avoiding this? Should Boston be getting the worst of it, and New York, New Jersey get some good stuff?
Well, it's kind of, you can kind of see the storms kind of move from the Midwest towards the East Coast sometimes, and then it kind of goes up the coast towards Boston. But right now,
I just think Boston deserves the bad. I love Boston, but it deserves the bad weather. Some mean people in Boston. All right, Glenn, let's get back on target here. And, Tony had a great, kind of summation of what's going on right now with the Kevin Warsh Fed. I just want to throw it to you. Do you believe our interest rate hikes back on the table? Tony said no.
All right. I'll play the devil's advocate here and say I think they might be to a small amount, maybe a quarter point to a half a point, but I think he won't do it until the summer is over at this point, to see kind of how things are going. But, there's another person might be pulling his strings a little bit, so he might hesitate. But the truth is, if he has to do the right thing, it's the one of the very few tools that the Fed has to kind of get inflation under control, other than, say, controlling the money supply. So there still is a possibility for him to kind of jack it a teeny bit to control inflation. But coming up to the midterms right now, it shouldn't be a political decision. It should just be an economic decision. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we live in some times where things should be one way and they're the opposite. So let's hope that, as these midterms come up, probably one of the, every year, every election cycle, this is the biggest election ever. This is the biggest presidential ever. This is the biggest off-year election ever. Biggest city council election ever. This is going to be one of the biggest midterms ever. Let's just be honest. And with how divisive this country is, and obviously how independent the Fed is supposed to be, and how it is at times seemed not so much, at least since President Trump's gotten in office. We'll see how everything shakes out, but I know a lot of people are definitely nervous about certain aspects of that. That's obviously why we have this show, to allay their fears or tell them maybe they should be warned. They're warranted to be a little, scared of stuff. I mentioned we have 4 main questions that have kind of being, kind of the crux of where we're at today. These 4 central questions about what's going on as we get ready to cross into Q3. And Glenn, I'll start with you on this one. The AI ROI dilemma. Very good terminology, by the way, written for me by the great Tony Mitchell. I do want to know, is the massive tech spend sustainable? Because I have a lot of friends that swear by just investing and reinvesting in AI, in tech. There are other friends of mine that I really trust, and you guys are experts as well, so that's why I'm really excited to hear what your thoughts are, that tell me that the AI is just a bubble, just like tulips were in Holland in, what was it, the 1600s, whatever it was. And it's going to, these companies are putting all these crazy numbers together, but none of them are really, most of them aren't profitable, and it's going to burst. Where are you at with that, Glenn?
Well, the thing with the tulips were at one point during the tulip craze back in Holland 400 years ago.
Was I right? It was 1600s, right?
1600s, yep.
All right. My education was worth it, I guess, the $5 I paid for it. More than that.
Supposedly the tulip craze made the Dutch East India Company, the company that helped invest in founding America, it turned it into the richest company in the world for a short period of time. They were worth well over $5 trillion in today's market.
Glenn, really, not to cut you off, but just a little known fact, isn't the Dutch East India Company where Captain Jack Sparrow was a part of?
Yep.
For the Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah. Yep. And so anyway, at one point, one bulb was worth $500,000. You could buy an actual house for the cost of one tulip bulb. But at one point, people figured, well, it's not really worth anything at that point. I would think crypto is actually closer to that, to tulips, than an NVIDIA, an AMD, a Marvel, right? They actually make a thing. They make an actual thing. If you have I was thinking today, years ago, everybody was on MySpace, right? MySpace was a great site.
Tom was my friend on MySpace. Yeah, I was a personal friend of Tom's.
But what the problem was, it's technically the low barrier to entry. And then along comes this company called the Facebook, right? And they come along, and MySpace is still in business, but they're not what they used to be because that barrier to entry. So you look at these other companies that make chips and hardware and everything, and people are buying these, but not just for AI. They're using it for laptops and desktops and servers, and you want to run your refrigerator and your automobile. So there's chips being used everywhere, but they're physical things, and they're in demand. So if your widget's in demand and it's a physical thing, I still think there's a lot of demand, or there's a lot of road out there for this demand into the future. So I don't think we're anywhere near, say, the bubble we were in, say, the late 90s, because these are actual tangible physical objects that people want versus a website where if you get the next best idea, your website could be knocked down tomorrow.
Perfectly said, Glenn. By the way, did you know that Tony had 186,000 MySpace friends? I thought I had a lot. Tony was like the guy. Tom used to direct message him all the time. Tony, same thing to you when it comes to AI ROI. Like I said, it really is an intriguing thing because there are a lot of people out there that will swear by it, like the owner of the Golden State Warriors that believes that, crypto is the king and that Bitcoin will be worth $1 million a coin someday. And there are many others, top level people of, the statures of the Warren Buffett type people that think that this AI thing is not only going to crash, but that these companies are just pumping up false numbers because none of them are really making any money, yet that there's a ton of money being put into them and portfolios and ETFs being basically just, kind of hitched to these AI companies. Where are you at with everything?
I am cautiously optimistic, because I do believe in AI. This is going to be a great thing. This is a game changer for the world. We're going to look back at this moment and talk about this as a historic moment. It is doing a lot of great things. But as far as investing, you have to be cautious because of the run-ups in some of these companies. And some of the ones that ran up might not pan out as well as some of the ones that haven't even run up yet. So you have to look at some secondary and tertiary plays, and look at Meta. Meta's been beat up in the past 6 months or so, but today there was an announcement how they're going to be competing with Anthropic and OpenAI, and their stock just did a nice reverse today. So, and it could keep running from here. So you have to be cautious. You have to be careful. Don't put all your money
in one basket.
Yeah, eggs in one basket. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. It's unbelievable how some of these stocks have run. Like we've never seen stocks run before. But some of them are going to keep going. Some of them are going to lose steam and turn the other way. And it's a crazy market right now. So caution, yet optimistic is really how I'm looking at it and trying to find a little bit of value in some AI opportunities, as well as some other things. Right now, because all the money's gone into these companies, there's some great value in some other things. What I'm going to talk about is my pick of the day today that's really been beat up. So,
by the way, I was happy to help you out with that, that terminology, the eggs in one basket, right? Because my dad, I was over visiting him earlier today and made me some very tasty sunny side up eggs. Although he broke one of the yolks, I was a little bummed out. But he's a great egg man. He is the walrus, cuckoo, and I got some nice fake bread to go along with it, so it was fantastic. But just speaking on the AI thing too, you made a great point, and I know that obviously you and Glenn talked about the tertiary stuff, the secondary stuff, obviously what we're seeing when it comes to some of these companies. You mentioned Marvel, you met obviously AMD, all these different companies that are involved, Anthropic, but that you made a great point about AI. AI is incredible. Now it is the future, it's the present, it's everything. Hopefully, like I said on a previous show, we're not around when the Terminator stuff happens. But until then, it's going to be something that changes the world the way the computer age changed the world. And we've gone faster in 100 years than we did in 5,000 years. So it is amazing. It's just about what companies are the ones that are going to get to the certain, benchmarks first. I know there was something I read this week. I'm forgetting. I apologize, but you just look it up. I'm forgetting who wrote the famous person that knows about AI that talked about it. That said generative AI is a bust, that the bubble's going to burst, that it's not going to happen. There's so many people that believe it is. And if generative AI does happen, these companies are going to make trillions of dollars. And it's going to obviously affect people's jobs, but also create tons of new jobs. So there's a lot of great stuff that we're going to continue to dive in when it comes to, talking about that stuff, AI and ROI on AI. It's a lot of acronyms for you on this show. I mentioned we got 4 central questions today. We've covered the Kevin Dorsch Fed and about interest rates, hikes back on the table. Talked about the AI ROI dilemma. And now I want to get into this, starting with you, Tony. Oil prices. This is out, and obviously up to the second things change with what's going on with the war in Iran. President Trump had to change planes. Was it a cover story? Did Qatar put listening devices on? Is there really crazy threats? I know that plane literally didn't have the up to the speed defenses that the regular military grade Air Force One did. So leaving the politics and all that stuff out of it, oil is a massive issue right now. Energy in Europe, the heat waves, all the things going on around the world, oil prices and oil itself are such a big deal. Do you believe falling oil prices will finally tame sticky, not hot weather sticky, like we're getting in too much of the country, but sticky inflation?
The bottom line answer is yes. It is a difficult subject right now because of this war and the back and forth. And we have a ceasefire. We don't have a ceasefire. We're bombing tonight. We're getting a deal tomorrow. It's been crazy. In fact, it's so crazy. I think everybody's forgot about Ukraine, right? And there's still a war going on over there. So it's a crazy time we're living in right now. But bottom line is the market's looking through a lot of this. And yes, as oil comes down, inflation will come down. There is a lot of things that are expensive out there right now, but there's been a lot of adjustments. And I don't feel, again, this goes back to my prediction about the Fed. I don't feel that it's out of control to the point the Fed's going to have to raise this year. So I do believe that inflation, while annoying, is not going to rear itself so bad that we have to see increases.
Well, let's from your lips to God's ears, and Glenn, just to throw this to you, we are living in this very volatile time, and I know that some people getting, especially people in the financial sector, getting very annoyed with what's going on with this. As Tony, perfectly encapsulated it. Is there a ceasefire? There is. There isn't. There is now. There is for 5 minutes. There is for 10 minutes. There isn't again. It's a total whiplash. I wonder where you're at with the falling oil prices. And, obviously they're not going to fall forever if we keep attacking Iran and they keep attacking us. But when you just kind of look at that from a macro view, where are you at with all that?
Well, Tony mentioned the war in Ukraine. And right now the Ukrainians are blowing the living you-know-what out of all the Russian oil refineries. They're going to basically try to turn them completely off. And they've knocked about 42 to 50% of their oil capacity offline, and oil prices are still going down. They're losing their ability to sell oil, and oil prices have kind of gone over the hump a little bit and are going down the other side, where all these people around Earth who need diesel for whatever they need it for, oil or gas, they found alternatives, and I think it'll drive inflation down a little bit, because if oil from Russia isn't making that much of an impact on the global market anymore, then maybe there isn't that much of a problem. With oil supply, it's actually moving it through the Strait of Hormuz. There's really not a problem with oil. Like there's been a glut of oil for the last couple of years. So it's moving it from A to B. And what's happening in some of those Middle Eastern countries, they're going to build an artificial canal. They're going to build a train line through the desert. They're going to find all these alternative routes. And here's the paradox. Neither the U.S. or Iran is going to come out of it completely clean, but Iran's going to lose too, because people are going to start avoiding going through that area. So right now, their economy is on the edge, and they need people to do business with them too. So if you drive all your customers away, people will find an alternative. And what's amazing is there's enough oil and inflation is still going down, even though there's a war, with oil being blown up.
Which is crazy. It's totally crazy. And as they say,
people are wondering, is it going up or going down, going up or going down? I think literally that has been kind of worked into the market, and people are just ignoring it at this point.
Yep.
They're looking down years into the future.
Like you said, it is on a razor's edge too. It really is. It's a fascinating time. It can be a frustrating time at times as well, but it's a time to stay vigilant and obviously focused on things like you two are talking about tonight. We're about to get to the fourth question of our Fab 4-pack of kind of where things are at as we head into Q3 of 2026. But I want to take a quick second here, because we've talked about this on the last several shows, and I know it's going live this month. So Tony, people can see this kind of flowing across their screen right now if they're watching. If not, I'll kind of read it to them, because I want to make sure that people are listening to this as the audio version, or maybe even live right now. And I did want to mention too, we do have some live viewers. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. We love our live viewers, and we'll always answer anything you have to say, or even if you just have a comment, we'll read that as well. But I know the Marketocracy Stock Picking Contest is going live this month, and I know, Tony, people want to know if they're the next Warren Buffett. and let everyone know about signing up and how they can get information on that, because that's going to be a lot of fun. That's kind of how you guys started this whole Marketocracy Masters thing, by doing a similar type thing, and now the people get a chance to do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Dan. Every one of our masters started by competing in a contest going back into the 1990s, and performed with a long-term great performance. And so we're restarting that. It's taken us a while to get this launched because we built the model from scratch to allow everybody to do this, but we are almost about to launch it, like within the next couple of weeks. Glenn and I were just in a meeting yesterday reviewing it, and there's just a few little tweaks left to go, but you can sign up right now at marketocracy.io, and we'll let you know what to do as soon as we're ready to launch that in the next couple of weeks. We are looking for the next Warren Buffetts. We are looking for the next guys like us that are going to be master investors and manage some portfolios for Marketocracy. So please sign up, and more information to come at marketocracy.io.
And Tony, it might have taken a little while, but as you know, good things come to those who wait. That's why when Glenn disappeared tonight, he came back, and it was a good thing. So you got to wait on stuff sometimes. All right, well, let's finish up before we get to the stock picks with this question. As I mentioned, the final of our 4-pack questions tonight. And it's about high valuations versus deep value, which is something that I love. And as I've been involved in the markets and covering them and investing in them these last several years, gets me very excited. I go to you, Glenn. Where do we put cash to work? I mean, you've got stocks, like I mentioned, some of these AI companies that have crazy high valuations. But then you also have the other side of things where you've got companies, and Tony alluded to this earlier, where maybe because people are putting all this money in AI, Anthropic, et cetera, that there's some value out there with things that aren't getting looked at as well. They're in the garden, but maybe the tomatoes are being looked at, and the eggplants are not as much. So what's the tomato? What's the eggplant? Where are we at with high valuations versus deep value, and where do we put that cash to work, Glenn?
Well, when NVIDIA reported their numbers, I think last month, it was, they had $81 billion in revenue. Now, that sounds like they're selling a lot of their widgets and people have, a desire to buy their hardware. That right there is the picks and shovels versus Anthropic, which is more trying to make money from the actual usage of the AI versus selling the picks and shovels to all the other companies to let them figure it out.
Totally different strategies, Glenn. Great way to bring that up.
Yeah. And, I guess I've had such a background in IT and technology that, I lean towards buying the picks and shovels and let people figure out what to do with it. And the guys who are trying to figure out what to do with it will have to buy those picks and shovels no matter what. So, buy the arms dealers to the AI race versus just the guys who are fighting against one another, something like that. And
that's a great point.
Sure, the valuation of NVIDIA might be high, but they're selling an incredible amount of product and people can't get enough of it. So that's usually a good thing in economics.
I know as a kid, I think was it Atari? I played a game called Spelunker, and I was all about the picks and shovels. So I'm with you on that. You gotta. That's the model that I think is always going to work. I learned about supply and demand. I think it was Epcot Center, and they were showing like a donut shop, and the donuts would come through, and then the people came, and it was all about supply and demand. If you're selling picks and shovels, as opposed to just the hope and idea of things, the picks and shovels are going to make the money. So, Tony, when it comes to where we're at with this, where do you come down on this high valuations versus deep value, and where do you want to, see not just your cash, but others' cash put to work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's as I mentioned before, you have to be cautious. There's everybody wants to jump into the tech plays that are working right now because there's that fear of missing out, right? So there
FOMO, they call it. The kids call it.
Exactly, FOMO. But there is some value still in some tech stocks, but I think there's a lot more value in the stocks that everybody's just leaving for dead right now. I'm going to talk about one in a little bit that hit a 52-week low today, and there's some reasons that it's getting beat up a little bit, but it's at a great value, and I think it has a 50% upside going into next year. But you have to have the long-term investor mindset. You can't be worried every day about, oh, yeah, but this chip stock just jumped $20, and I'm sitting here holding this thing that hasn't done anything. So it's a long-term game. We all were successful at Marketocracy because of our long-term investments. And I think right now is a great time to jump into some things that are going to have some great value.
It absolutely is. And I know that a lot of people are very excited when you guys give your stocks to buy. Don't worry, we'll get to that disclaimer in a little bit. We got to make sure people understand this is just, we're giving you information. It's not what we're telling you to do. But Tony, I'll start with you here. And I know you got one that I love that I've really kind of been focused on researching and looking at it in the last couple of years, and seems to just continue to make money.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And so before I even give the name, I just want to say that, as I talk about this, a lot of people, the first thing they think of is toys. And it's not really just about the toys. But my pick today is Mattel. It's at a 52-week low. It's closed today at 13.18, which is unbelievable that it's trading at an 8.33 PE right now. So you're getting it really cheap. I think it's beat up because they just released one of their movies. I said it's not because of toys, because for me, this is about the parks they're working on building, which have had big delays. Talk about the delay we had. They've had major delays on these parks, but they will open. There's one in Glendale, Arizona, that should be opening in the next year. It was supposed to open last year. There's a second one that they're working on in Kansas City already. So they will open, but it's about monetizing the entire IP that Mattel owns. They've got some great franchises and brands like Barbie and Hot Wheels and a number of other things that they're putting into movies. They're putting into these theme parks. They're putting into gaming, and I think it's going to pay off for them. But there's a lot of pain right now in the stock. They just released one of the movies they've been working on, and it's pretty much been considered a flop. The He-Man movie. And Dan, I know you're a movie guy. You probably have you seen the He-Man movie yet, Dan?
It's funny. I do a lot of the press screenings. Like I'm seeing the Odyssey on Monday, which is getting rave reviews. The new Christopher Nolan movie with Matt Damon about Homer's Odyssey. The He-Man movie, I did not have a screening, and it didn't have a screening for a reason, because a lot of times bad movies, the movie studio doesn't want to screen them for the public, for the press. Maybe just some assorted press get it. But I knew right away, because I was a huge fan of the Dolph Lundgren one back in the, or I'm sorry, not Dolph Lundgren. Back in the day, the 80s one. And it was called Masters of the Universe. Dolph Lundgren, yeah, he was in it. And Frank Langella was in it. Courtney Cox as a youngster was in it. James Tolkien was in it, who was in Back to the Future. That was a great movie, and it was kind of like a cult classic. This new one, I just know it got really bad reviews when it came out. Did do a good job, but still, it made a lot of money from the merchandising sales. So you mentioned Barbie. Barbie is one of the great movies of the last 25 years by the great director Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, who was an executive producer, and obviously Ryan Gosling was incredible as Ken. There is a lot of stuff that Mattel does, Tony, like you said, that it's not just toys. It's a lot of different things.
Yeah. And we know the movie industry, that we know that all their movies aren't going to be big hits. They're going to have some losers. It's like
there's a ton of flops.
You don't have to have every one of your stock picks do well. You just need a couple that do really good, and you can do really well. So it's not bothering me that this He-Man movie didn't do well. And I've heard some positive things about it, but overall it just didn't have good reviews, like you said. But low PE, 52-week low on the stock price right now. I think by the end of 2027 that you have a 50% return on Mattel. It just needs to get back to $20 from here, and you'll have a 50% return. And the company authorized a major buyback of $1.5 billion. They're buying back their own stock. That's an authorization through 2028. So there's a lot of positive things going. And I think as these things come online and start clicking, the theme parks, and they have another successful movie and they get some games churned out, I think there's going to be a big winner in Mattel.
I love it. When you have lots of IP, and historic IPs like Barbie and He-Man and many others like Mattel does. Yeah, the options are endless. All right, great stuff, Tony. Let's go over to you, Glenn. You went a different direction. I know a lot of people have probably heard of Mattel. Maybe not a lot of people have heard of your pick, but the direction you're going in is a fascinating one, because these are the kind of things that you can make a lot of money on. So I want you to explain, because this isn't over-the-counter stock. You can't just get it on Robinhood or E-Trade or things like that, but it doesn't make it any less valuable.
Last month, I recommended 2 ETFs. One was Drive, DRIV, and one was BATT, B-A-T-T. And what they are ETFs that trade in the energy sector, and they buy battery and solar companies. So I think this month I'm going to lean towards one of their biggest holdings, which is CATL, which is a Chinese company. And right now they have 1/3 of the global market for batteries. And
that's crazy. That's crazy. That is insane. Crazy.
Yeah. So normally I try to avoid Chinese companies for just the issue of dealing with getting the money in and out and dealing with that and having to deal with different types of tickers. For example, it's an American depository receipt, which is the way you buy a foreign traded stock. So this would be a way of buying into CATL because they have a new type of sodium battery that they've been working on for the last 2 years. And they have a factory that they've been building, and it's basically going into production this year. And they estimate that by the end of this year, they'll be cost compatible with lithium ion batteries. So you see a lot of these news stories where they found a huge lithium deposit somewhere, or, they're going to dig it out of Australia's back, the outback. But the thing is, lithium might actually start to become more worthless because there's so much sodium and we got plenty of salt on Earth, and this could completely replace it. No more cobalt, no more rare earth minerals, no more, lots of problems.
We got a whole ocean of salt, by the way, not just the kosher salt you get at the store.
Exactly. So we got plenty of actual material to make these batteries with. And if they can really get to that level of being cost competitive with lithium and surpassing it within the next 12 months, I mean, I really believe the next thing is what's been going through my mind is that it's not as much electric cars as that it's actually commercial and residential energy storage. Not everybody drives a car, but everybody's in a building or a house or a factory or an office, and you need power. And what's going to happen is people are going to start buying power packs from all these companies, and you're going to do energy arbitrage. So you have your office building, nobody's there on a Saturday or a Sunday in the middle of August, but you're still generating energy. And now your building can generate energy and sell it back to the grid. And this is where it changes the whole cost paradigm for every conceivable structure on Earth, just by having a battery that you actually charge with solar. And how can once you buy the hardware, the fuel is free. And that's why if CATL can pull this off, and this is not vaporware, they already have a giant share of the market. And supposedly a year ago, they got out of a lithium mine, and people were thinking maybe it's some sort of Chinese, it's like a political stunt to kind of threaten people, like they're not going to do lithium anymore. But really, it's because they don't need it anymore. That's the real truth. Why would you have a lithium mine when you don't need lithium anymore? So you're going to start selling off your technology that is the obsolete stuff and go towards the new stuff. I think this has huge potential.
I love it. Two different sectors, but two great picks by both the masters there. And if people are wondering, once again, that OTC ticker is CYA. TY, it's the Contemporary Amperex Technology ADR. And if you're wondering what it was trading at close today, $20.35 a share. And then for Tony Mattel, I think you mentioned this just to reiterate it, $13.18 a share is where both of those were trading. So great stuff, Glenn and Tony. Tony, as always, I let you deal with the disclaimer because we got a very top-level legal team, and if we don't get all of our legalities in there, I get in trouble. I lose my $0 salary, and I get, kind of put in the corner. So I got to make sure that we read the disclaimer.
Thank you, Dan. Absolutely. All comments made on this podcast are general in nature and not intended to be specific investing information. There's no guarantee. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance. And we recommend you review your financial investments with a registered investment advisor, whether it's Marketocracy Masters online or another advisor. Marketocracy Masters is a SEC registered online investment advisor.
Great stuff. And I apologize for those watching. For some reason, it cut off the end of that. So it's not guarantee of foo, it's guarantee of future. So apologies for there. Parting shots, Glenn. First off, I hope the weather's getting better. Is it still storming out there in Jersey?
Yeah, there were flood watches. I actually had my phone bleeped with the little storm warning, which is like get inside, like flash floods, because it's raining so hard that the infrastructure can't take the water.
I am. So please stay safe. Anything on the way out here, Glenn?
Yeah, I can't wait till the Hot Wheels movie. Nothing but orange tracks all over somebody's living room. That's how it's going to be, right? That's me. That's my childhood. Hot Wheels and orange tracks. I drove my parents crazy. But they can make a movie out of that, right?
I used to have those. They're the best.
There's one coming.
Tony, anything from you, my fine friend?
Just a reminder that our portfolios can be viewed, not the portfolio, but our performance can be viewed at marketocracymasters.com. And you can learn more about investing with the Marketocracy Masters at marketocracymasters.com.
All right, 2 things for me on the way out. One, don't forget that Marketocracy stock picking contest going live this month. Check it out. All the information at marketocracy.io. And this is not a financial, statement, but I just want to tell people if they're not watching the World Cup, freaking watch it. It's unbelievable. I don't care if you hate soccer. It's very hard, I think, even if you don't like sports or soccer at all, to not be mesmerized by how much this means to all these countries. It's the biggest sport by far in the world. There'll be half the planet will watch the final on July 19th from the New Meadowlands Stadium for MetLife in New York. So if you're not watching it, at least watch these semis. There's a couple quarters left and the finals in a week or so. I think it's a week from Sunday. For all these great folks, the great Glenn Broadworth, please stay safe out there in Jersey. I'm sorry my stepmom couldn't get out there. She's a little bummed herself. For the great Tony Mitchell, I am Dan Leach saying thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time on Ring the Bell Investing with the Masters of Marketocracy. Until then, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and believe in the dream. The Squatch and the crew is out.